Alright, welcome back to another Embrace Destiny video, everyone. Whoop, there we go. Kaz PhD here in the tower. And if you've been paying any attention lately, or if you haven't, the newest event going on are the faction rallies. So you see the flags up here for Future War Call, Dead Orbit, and New Monarchy flown around. The tower's been completely decked out head to toe in these flags. They're everywhere, whether you're here in the main courtyard or you're looking over running toward the hangar. So what's going on here? Basically, if you're not familiar with it, Destiny has three factions, three groups that you can kind of align yourself with, mostly in pursuit of different gear, weapons and armor and stuff like that, but they kind of have their own history and their own philosophy behind them, but it doesn't really make much of a difference so far, at least in the Destiny franchise. For a really good background on who the Future War Call, Dead Orbit, and New Monarchy groups are, what their philosophy is all about, I would definitely recommend checking out My Name is Bife YouTube channel. He's got a lot of good videos, and he just put up a few on each of the factions. So I've personally aligned myself here with Executor Hideo and New Monarchy, and as you can see, the way it works is for this next week, pretty much everything you do, or very specific things you can do, will earn you these faction tokens, whether it's New Monarchy or whatever. And as you turn them in, you can get different gear, different armor, weapons, stuff like that. Here's a bit of a preview of what you can get for New Monarchy. You can check out the other groups online, or maybe in your own account if you're playing. And again. Yeah, so for this next week you can contribute, and the faction with the most contribution will win the faction rally, and they'll have the favor of the city, presumably, and you'll be able to get this weapon, or the weapon corresponding to your faction, for a lot cheaper than everyone else. So basically, at the end of the week, if New Monarchy wins, I'll be able to buy this for 1,000 glimmer. Or if they lose, I'll have to pay like 50,000 glimmer for the weapon. So, yeah, it's kind of interesting. The other group, the other side, they all represent kind of trope ground philosophy. You have one group wants to rebuild humanity, but in doing so, they want to elect monarchy, as is clearly in their name. You have another group who believes that Earth is kind of ruined and go somewhere else, and you have another group that war is a constant in the universe and we should always be preparing for it. So, yeah, and as I said, you can, yesterday it was doing events and looting different caches on the European Dead Zone was what contributed to the faction rally, and today, as you can see in the top left there, strikes. So you do 3 strikes in the name of your faction, you earn tokens, but you can also do public events. Not sure if the cruise counts, but I'm pretty sure doing events counts. They have a new kind of event that you can see in all different explorable spaces. Basically, it's kind of like a Cabal supply run. There's multiple control points that you have control before the Cabal take over. And you can find that pretty much on anything like that. Dead Orbit's here, recognized by this, and they really into the Apple method of presentation, as you can see right here. It's very, very futuristic, very clean aesthetic lines. But it's cool. I'm really hoping that they add a little bit more. The thing with Destiny that I like and don't like is that most of the game is set up so that you're in the pursuit of loot. You're in the of weapons and armor and stuff like that. But the game really shines, and you'll control, or when you combine with a love of just pure possessions within the game and kind of wrap it a little bit around the story and the myth. So in Destiny 1 we had a little bit of, you had specific quests from the different factions, present them, and you got a very tiny amount of backstory. But I think what would be great is if we had to try and help rebuild, and they were different depending on which faction you're with. If you're with New Monarchy, may have to do something to rebuild cultural aspects of humanity somehow. If you're future war call, you have to take on the enemy or help our defenses prepare. And if you're with Dead Orbit, maybe you have to do something to better reach it, help, conceivably to help for establishing a new colony later. Anyway, that's about all I have to say for now. We'll see who wins by the end of the week. There's a lot of, personally, I kind of have a bit of a multi-glomerate look at it, which is, I don't really exactly agree with the philosophies, and I don't really agree with using one that has the best loot, but whatever works for you is fine. The game, after all. Anyway, what do you think? Which faction you guys are part of, or which you think is most interesting, or what you think is the worst? A lot of insights slung around on the internet, these different factions, and looking forward to seeing who wins. And as I said, more with it in the game. Destiny 1, they were just standing there, and you had missions regarding them, and it was very minor. But the whole city trying to rebuild itself, these political parties could form interesting, commentary on the mythos of the world. But that might be asking a little bit too much from the game, that most of its story, digital cards online. So, thank you very much for clicking that link. More video when my doesn't sound an octave off normal pitch. So enjoyed, and go check out the rest of it. Some of it's pretty good all out there. Thanks for watching. Bye now.